So people ask me all the time, what is my favorite manufacturer of hitch locking pins? And I tell them the same thing every time. Infinite Rule is probably the best hitch pin design you can get to lock your hitch head or your hitch into the receiver of your vehicle. They're made out of stainless steel. They are machined to a brilliant tolerance. They're absolutely super high quality. They have a very cool keyed mechanism that actually threads the locking end onto the pin itself. They have a rubber cap to prevent the keyhole from actually getting dust and grime and dirt inside of it, and they're just manufactured to probably the best tolerance I've ever seen. And what's really nice is the fact that the folks at Infinite Rule make customized pins for just about every major hitch manufacturer out there, whether it's Gen Y, Bulletproof, Shocker, or B&W, or even CURT or many others. They have pins designed to fit those applications, because that's a really important part of this. If you get a Shocker hitch for, say, like you're seeing in front of you, the last thing you want to have happen is that you come out to your vehicle and you need to tow something just to find out that the hitch head assembly has been removed from the vehicle and you have no ability to tow what you were planning on towing. So having a hitch pin lock that's able to reach across that much wider opening that you have on a Shocker hitch is really important. And that's another really nice thing about Infinite Rule, is that they're going to have customized hitch pins to fit just about every major manufacturer of hitch on the market, regardless of the width, regardless of the size, regardless of the diameter of the hole itself. So big fan of Infinite Rule pins. I just wanted to give them a big shout out. They always have the right pins for the hitches that I own, and that's really important for me, because the last thing I want is to need my hitch just to find out someone took it. Again, you can purchase pretty much every Infinite Rule pin from my channel sponsor eTrailer.com. They're an absolutely great source for them, and they can walk you through the specific pins you might need for your specific hitch application. Okay, so again, you were looking at our Shocker HD hitch. This is the 20,000 pound rated variation of it. 2 5/16 inch ball can support 20,000 pounds tow capacity and 2,000 pounds worth of vertical tongue weight. I painted this portion of it black, and you're about to see another one that already comes in that color, but this was a gray color, and I just kind of like the way it looked in black a little better. We have our Infinite Rule pins right here. Again, the best quality pin you're probably going to find on the market. I have another pin right here. This is actually a WaySafe pin. This one works really well also. It has a rather large end to it, which is actually a hair shorter than the Infinite Rule pin, but this one uses a different type of keying mechanism. But the reason why we're looking at the Shocker hitch here today is to show you that they have another version of this if you need a deeper drop to it. So this is really nice. The challenge that you might run into if you have a taller truck is the fact that the ball at its highest position to its lowest position is only about a 4-inch drop. So you might need a greater drop than that, and they have a version of this that will give you that. So they provided a sample for me so I could actually show you what it looks like. But not only did they provide a sample, they did it in their new Max Black configuration, which is really, really awesome. And we're going to show you that here in a second when we unbox it. If you're not familiar with this product and you didn't see some of the evaluation videos we did, where we compared this against other shock absorbing hitches that are on the market, this one performed absolutely stellar. It did a phenomenal job reducing the amount of shock that's being transferred from the truck to the trailer, specifically that A-frame section where a lot of the weight is being applied to whenever you're towing. And it takes a lot of the harshness out of a truck that traditionally is going to have really, really stiff rear suspension like our F450 here, and it keeps it from transferring to the A-frame of the trailer. If you have a lighter duty vehicle, like maybe a 3/4 ton truck or even a 1-ton single rear wheel truck, which has a softer rear suspension to it, then something like this may not be needed. But whenever you're talking about a really stiff suspension rear end truck like a 450 or a dually 350 or a Ram 3500 or a GMC or Chevrolet 3500 HD, you're going to have some very stiff rear suspension that, again, a lot of that shock can transfer to the front A-frame section of your trailer, RV, whatever you're towing. Especially if we're talking about medium duty trucks like an F550 or 650 chassis cab truck, which is going to have like 11 leaf springs and a very, very firm rear suspension, or perhaps like a Ram 5500, 6500 series, or a General Motors 5500, 6500, 7500 series truck. Again, all designed to have incredible payload capacity, but you are going to give up that smoothness. You're going to have a much stiffer, much larger leaf spring pack with a higher rate spring. on each level, and that's going to transfer a tremendous amount of shock to the back of the vehicle. But again, you may have a vehicle that sits up relatively high in stock form, or if you've lifted it, kind of like the F450 does right here. You may also have a truck that sits higher in the back, and you might not be able to lower it as low as you need. So that's why they make different variations of drop hitches. This one right here is their standard height, right? You get, again, roughly 4.5 inches of height adjustment here, but you may need more than that. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind with shocker hitches is that you can't flip them over and put them in a rise position like you can many other drop hitches, whether it's a Gen Y, B&W, and some of the others. This one, you pretty much only have a drop position, and you can only go up to the highest hole before you're going to have to switch to a different ball that has a rise built into it, or a ball that has a drop. So what we're going to show you in this box right here is another variation of this, but again, in their max black configuration, which looks awesome. So let's get this thing unboxed real quick, and let me show you what's inside. Okay, so check it out. We have the new Shocker HD in the max black look, which I really like the way that looks. I even like the look of the black pins compared to the traditional silver pins that you're gonna have. This has the 3-inch shank on it, again, designed for Super Duties with the 3-inch receiver. We have the black ball assembly up here, which is a much smoother finish than this one right here, which kind of has a textured finish to the gray. And again, I painted over it in black. This is really cool, and the folks over at Shocker make all sorts of different types of hitches, from gooseneck hitches with airbags to even traditional drop hitches that don't actually have an airbag. They utilize more of this rubber bushing right here for the shock absorption. So you have all sorts of different types of setups here, but this one right here has that additional drop, and it's an additional 4 inches of drop. So you have typically 8 holes right here, and this is going to add 4 additional adjustment holes. And what's really nice is that it gives you some really micro adjustment holes in case you just need to move it up a little bit or move it up a lot. So we're going to pull out this one, and we're going to put this one in to see how it looks. Now keep in mind, the folks over at Shocker say that you need to have 22 inches of clearance from the bottom of your receiver tube to the ground. And because we're at 19 inches, this is going to sit about 4 inches lower back here. So we do want to be careful if we're going to be backing up to an extra tall curb or going over something that's really steep. But we're going to try this out to see how it fits, how it works, and if it's going to accomplish what we're looking for, and that is to give us a little bit lower adjustment here if we need it. In the case of my smaller trailers, it's going to be important to be able to drop down lower, otherwise the front of the trailer is really high up in the air. So let's go ahead and get this one taken out and put this drop version in. I had to let a little air out of the bag so it would actually go on, and there's a Schrader valve here on the side. Definitely encourage you to go back and look at some of the other videos I've done on these. There we go. I'm trying to do this in real time so you can kind of see how this works. Put the ball head assembly on here. The finish right here looks like it'll come off pretty quickly. You can see where it's got a little bit of scarring from shipment, even though the box was undamaged. But I'm not sure how long that'll last, but it sure looks good right now. Now it gives us the ability to drop it way down, really, really low if we need to. That's pretty nice. But yeah, this gives us quite a bit more flexibility in terms of how low we would want to position this. I love the black pins though, that's really nice. Very cool. What do you guys think of that? Let's take a measurement real quick from the bottom of here to the ground. Okay, so from the bottom of here to the ground is going to be about 10.5 inches, maybe 10.25 inches, whereas it used to be right about here, which is about 14.5 inches, maybe about 14.25 inches. It was really about here. So yeah, roughly about 14 inches, maybe a little less than that. It's in the up position a little bit right now, so it's going to be a little lower right here than it is right here. But again, it's a difference of about 3.5 to 4 inches. Not a huge difference, and I really don't think that we're going to risk ground contact with anything in the configuration it's on right now, but it's going to give me the flexibility, of course, whenever we're dealing with smaller trailers that the tongue is sitting much lower to the ground, to be able to hitch up again without it being very nose high, which is nice. Again, this is really designed for folks with trucks that have 22 inches of clearance from the bottom of the receiver tube to the ground. Again, we're at 19, so we're about 3 inches difference. Ideally, they'd like this off the ground about 3 inches higher than it's currently at, which I can kind of understand. But overall, that looks really nice, and it's a pretty substantial looking setup as well, and I love the way it looks in this black color. Again, this is the Shocker HD. This thing's rated to 20,000 pounds towing capacity, 2,000 pounds on this ball, and on the 2-inch ball, we'll have a 10,000 pound tow capacity with 1,000 pounds worth of hitch weight capacity. But overall, that actually looks really good, and it is not super low to the ground, so I'm not as concerned about that as I thought I was going to be. I'd venture to say that a lot of vehicles have their hitches much lower than that, just in their standard form, but because the 450s sit relatively high in the back, it's going to give us a little bit more clearance than it might otherwise. Very, very cool. What do you guys think? I'm going to tell you, it is a really, really good looking hitch, and they've done a great job, especially in this black, max black finish. And I love the fact that the pins are black. Pretty much everything's black except for this pivot point here and the cap portion for the Schrader valve. But yeah, definitely drop a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.